What is a space plane? We know that the Shuttle is an iconic vehicle. Just looking at it, we are instantly struck by feelings of nostalgia, adventure, heroism, tragedy. Do we leave the space plane behind as a relic from the past, or do we embrace it as a future for shared access to space and global collaboration? If only someone would reinvent the space shuttle for the modern day. When designing a vehicle for outer space, there are three main tasks it must accomplish. 1, it must be able to successfully overcome Earth's gravity and leave the atmosphere safely when launched. 2, once it gets to outer space, it must be able to carry out its mission objectives. And 3, if it isn't a one-way trip, it must be able to safely and successfully return to Earth along with its cargo, human or otherwise. It is the third factor that we are going to focus on in this video because reentry is at the heart of why we invented, retired, and are now returning to the space shuttle as a means to move people from Earth to space and back again. The reason reentry is so tricky is because the capsule or craft needs to tolerate an incredible amount of stress as it enters the atmosphere. Friction with the atmosphere coupled with the vehicle compressing the air in front of it can result in surface temperatures hitting 1,400 degrees Celsius or more, and that's before you factor in the heavy deceleration and structural rigidity needed. Okay, quick history lesson before we move on. In April 1961, Yuri Gagarin from the then Soviet Union was the first human in space. His flight aboard the Vostok 1 took him around the Earth, and then, at about 7 kilometers above the surface, he ejected from the craft and parachuted down safely. A month later, NASA conducted a similar mission under Project Mercury. The only difference was reentry. The astronauts didn't eject from the craft, but the capsule itself kept them contained safely as it parachuted into the sea where it was retrieved by helicopter. This set the tone for space travel, and ever since, we have always returned to Earth in enclosed containers. Of course, Felix Baumgartner's skydive from the edge of the stratosphere in 2012 being the sole exception, but that's a whole other video in itself. Now here's a question for you. Are you ready to boldly go where no one has gone before? Joining Starfleet has been a dream of mine for about as long as I can remember, so I've been absolutely loving today's sponsor, Star Trek Fleet Command, a massive multiplayer online game set in the ever-expanding Star Trek universe. You can recruit legendary characters to crew iconic ships from over 50 years of Star Trek stories and send them on missions of exploration to expand your territory. Engage players around the world in battles testing your strategic ability, negotiate alliances for greater gain, and harvest the galaxy's resources as you upgrade your fleet of starships. Star Trek Fleet Command is cross-platform, available to play seamlessly on desktop or mobile. The new immersive Star Trek story set in the Kelvin timeline offers players a fresh narrative experience, exploring alternative dimensions and storylines. Check out this month's brand new mission, the Mirror Universe. Unleash the power of the Mirror Universe with the arrival of 2 iconic figures, Mirror Picard and Mirror Borg Data. Play 7 days in a row and unlock the epic Romulan officer Nero for free. New players can use our promo code BOOST to unlock a beginner station upgrade content pack. Install the game from the link in our description or scan the QR code on screen to become the leaders of a mighty alliance in the Star Trek universe today. Fast forward to 1969, and the Apollo 11 mission had successfully put humans on the moon and then aboard the command module, returned them safely to the Pacific Ocean from where they were retrieved. While this was proving to be a safe and certain way to return humans and cargo from outer space, it was resource intensive. Ships and helicopters had to be deployed, and it required a lot of planning. In addition to this, the re-entry capsules were a single-use only method, as the ablative heat shields wouldn't last a second trip. Now, with all this in mind, NASA proposed the Space Transportation System in 1969 to develop reusable spacecraft and further space travel systems. But with only the Space Shuttle portion of the proposal greenlit for funding, it is better known as the Space Shuttle program. The idea was to develop a reusable spaceplane, a vehicle that could fly and glide like an aircraft in Earth's atmosphere and maneuver like a spacecraft in outer space. One that could deal with the stresses of reentry and then land on a very long purpose-built runway. And they did it. The space shuttle consisted of the main orbiter vehicle powered by 3 Rocketdyne RS-25 main engines, a pair of solid rocket boosters, and an expendable external tank containing liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. And instead of the ablative heat shields of old, these used ceramic tiles instead. It launched vertically like a rocket and landed as an unpowered glider. The first orbital test flight took place in 1981, with the first operational flight a year later. Over the next 3 decades, 6 space shuttles were built and flew a total of 135 missions before being retired in 2011 with the completion of the International Space Station. While the space shuttle is heralded as the dawn of a new age, it wasn't all smooth sailing. Of the 4 operational space shuttles in the fleet, 2 were lost to accidents. The Challenger in 1986 and Columbia in 2003, killing a total of 14 astronauts. The subsequent investigation by the Columbia Accident Investigation Board pointed out flaws in the design that led to it exploding on re-entry, problems with the management process, and ways to improve. But at the end, they also recommended retiring the space shuttle. With the safety issues and the prohibitively high cost to redesign the entire craft, in 2004, then President of the United States, George W. Bush, announced the shuttle would be retired in 2010. And from 2011 until the SpaceX Crew Dragon in 2020, the United States relied on the Russian Soyuz spacecraft to transport its astronauts to the International Space Station. Unlike NASA, the Soyuz series of spacecraft continues to use a re-entry capsule and is not reusable. A new spacecraft must be made for every mission. The re-entry capsule itself can carry a maximum of 3 astronauts and is designed to touch down on land. Currently, in its 4th generation, the Soyuz has a reputation for being safe and reliable. There have been only 2 fatal accidents, the first in 1967 when the Soyuz 1 crashed due to parachute failure. The second was the ill-fated Soyuz 11 in 1971 when the crew capsule depressurized before re-entry, killing all 3 astronauts on board. But since NASA retired the space shuttles, the Soyuz MS was the only aircraft capable of transporting astronauts to the ISS. Of course, all that has changed since SpaceX commenced its crewed operations. So with that history on space shuttles and re-entry models out of the way, let's get back to the present. But wait a minute, we just learned that the Soyuz re-entry capsule was safe and reliable while the space shuttle was riddled with safety issues, so why exactly are we going back to spaceplanes? What changed? Well, technology did. A lot has changed since 2011, with advancements in heat-resistant technology and propulsion systems leading the charge. When it comes to cost, it has never been cheaper to launch things into space, with SpaceX at the forefront. Rocket technology has become more efficient and can carry greater loads. However, recovering a re-entry capsule from the sea or a desert continues to be an expensive affair, especially if the capsule cannot be reused, and thus, a reusable spaceplane is once again an enticing proposition, with Sierra Space at the tip of that sword. The first model of their spaceplane is the DC-100. It is the first uncrewed cargo spacecraft that Sierra Space is manufacturing, and they are calling the first unit Tenacity. A second unit named Reverence will be completed at a later date. In combination with the DC-100, Sierra Space has also developed a cargo module called Shooting Star that connects to the back of the spaceplane to double its cargo capacity. Together, they are capable of delivering over 6 tons of pressurized and unpressurized payloads to the International Space Station. The DC-100 and Shooting Star combo is designed to not just be a cargo transport, but to also provide a normal cabin environment for astronauts to work in when connected to the International Space Station. In preparation for this, NASA astronauts have already undergone training at Sierra Space facilities to understand the vehicle, its hardware, and various cargo transfer scenarios inside a full-size mock-up of the vehicle. Sierra Space has also made some improvements to what we were used to with the NASA Space Shuttle. When it comes to heat protection, the DC-100 is covered with larger 10-inch square tiles made of silica that can withstand the stresses of reentry much better than its predecessors. Another key improvement is the low 1.5 Gs of force experienced by the craft on reentry. Compared to the 3 Gs experienced on the Space Shuttle, this is good news for the transport of fragile and precious cargo. Even better news for the launch phase is that the entire spaceplane and cargo module are loaded inside a payload fairing on a rocket instead of riding exposed on the outside, protecting it from debris and reducing ascent loads. At 30 feet long, the DC-100 is roughly a quarter of the total length of NASA's Space Shuttle. In launch configuration, its wings and solar panels are folded. Once the rocket gets to outer space, the spacecraft enters flight configuration, following separation from the launch fairing. The wings and solar panels unfold and the vehicle will approach the International Space Station, where the berthing arm will collect and attach it. Once the mission is completed, critical payloads will be loaded back into the DC-100, while critical waste will be stored in the Shooting Star module, which can be used as a waste disposal system. Prior to re-entry, the Shooting Star module will separate and burn up in Earth's atmosphere, while the uncrewed DC-100 will carry on and land at a runway where the payload will be immediately accessible. The DC-100 Tenacity was originally scheduled to make its maiden flight in 2023, but was delayed. Sierra Space has not been idle though, with testing progressing at a rapid rate. Earlier in May this year, the company announced the successful completion of a very rigorous environmental testing process carried out over months at the Neil Armstrong Test Facility in Sandusky, Ohio. It involved attaching the DC-100 and the Shooting Star module to the world's most powerful spacecraft shaker table to replicate the intense conditions of launch vibrations as well as vehicle separation. Next, the spaceplane underwent thermal vacuum testing for over 5 weeks, where the vehicle was subjected to multiple hot-cold cycles in a vacuum environment with temperatures ranging from -150 Fahrenheit to over 250 Fahrenheit to replicate the bitter cold of outer space and the brutal heat of the sun's radiation. Prior to all this, in December 2023, Sierra Space conducted shock tests with its launch partner, the United Launch Alliance, using the flight separation system that will deploy the spacecraft from the upper stage to ULA's second Vulcan Centaur rocket. While the DC-100 is designed to be compatible with multiple launch rockets, its initial voyages will be aboard the Vulcan Centaur, which made its maiden flight in January 2024. So, what's next for the DC-100? Sierra Space says the spaceplane will now be transported to NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida and housed in the Space Systems Processing Facility for final integration and testing. The final environmental tests, acoustic testing, and electromagnetic interference and compatibility testing will be performed here, as well as the remaining work on the thermal protection system. Sierra Space is confident the Tenacity is on track for a 2024 launch, when it will join SpaceX and Northrop Grumman as part of the second commercial resupply services contract to bring supplies to and from the International Space Station. In total, the Dream Chaser vehicles are scheduled for 7 flights according to the NASA contract awarded in 2016. Now, if you thought Sierra Space had just one project in the pipeline, you would be gravely mistaken. The company describes itself as one that creates the foundational infrastructure and ecosystem that enables the future commercial space economy to benefit life on Earth. So, what does that entail? Well, for starters, there's going to be a DC-200 spaceplane, which is being designed for crewed missions to outer space. Then there's the Orbital Reef, the mixed-use space station in low Earth orbit for commerce, research, and tourism that Sierra Space is developing with Blue Origin and others. The company is also developing the Large Integrated Flexible Environment Habitat for these space stations, which is essentially a 3-story structure that packs real tight on a rocket and inflates once in space. Oh, and did we mention Sierra Space has recently also signed a few new defense contracts? In December of 2023, the company secured a 10-year contract with the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, or DARPA, for a lunar architecture capability study. It will focus on oxygen extraction and electrical storage for a commercial lunar infrastructure concept. In January 2024, the company also announced it won a contract valued at $740 million by the Space Development Agency for 18 missile warning and tracking satellites. This takes the company's portfolio for classified programs to around $1.3 billion, and all this isn't including the rocket engine propulsion tech and other satellite and space travel hardware that Sierra Space develops and manufactures. All this to say, we might be hearing the name Sierra Space a lot more in the future.